Hi folks, Florida Man here. We are one of the biggest, and probably the best, of the Diplomacy YouTube channels. I'm also currently publishing a lit RPG fantasy novel on Railroad, linked in the description below. It's called Ruthless, Path of Conquest, and on the website it already has over 1,300 followers, so doing pretty well, if you wanted to check it out. Today I bring you a diplomacy commentary on a game I played on PlayDiplomacy.com on the Milan variant map. The game was called Caesar. I decided to join this game because I've been working on getting more variant games under my belt lately, especially variants that I did not previously like, such as the 100 variant that you've previously seen a video on, and Milan. I played as France. Spring 1901, I had good exchanges with both Germany and England. I agreed on a DMZ of the English Channel with England and a bounce in Burgundy with Germany. This would give me the advantages of guaranteeing my security against any early German attack and give me a shot at Belgium in 1901. Italy and I exchanged mutually reassuring messages as well. On the Milan map, I find that Italy is a bigger threat to France than he usually is, because the Italian position is simply strengthened by the addition of a space between Italy and Austria, although in practice, I've observed that I think Austria is probably strengthened more than Italy by being more secure on that flank, which dramatically changes the early game calculus, where Austria is normally ganked by all three of its neighbors. When Spring 1901 orders process, we see things that are fairly expected. I get bounced in Burgundy, as planned. I move into Picardy so I can have a say over who gets Belgium. I move into mid-Atlantic Ocean and the English Channel remains empty. England opens very north. Very anti-Russia, as far as I'm concerned. Not that there's really anything super anti-Russia that can be done in Spring 1901 by England, but this is the most anti-Russian thing he can do. At the same time, Russia opens provocatively anti-Germany, moving to Silesia, which is quite a leap, quite a gamble, I would say. Russia also opens to Ukraine and does a bounce in the Black Sea with Turkey. So, Austria looking pretty good here, even if primarily because of Russia just not doing the typical thing on the classic map. Austria opened to Budapest, Serbia, and Adriatic Sea. Unfortunately for Austria, Italy opened to Venetia, and now Italy has a shot potentially at Trieste, although Austria can easily block it. Turkey made the very typical Italian opening, other than the fact that Smyrna remained in place. Looking to the fall, we see that Germany and Russia quite naturally bounce in Sweden, which is very unsurprising considering that Russia had made that provocative opening. England convoys into Norway. Things are starting to look like Germany and England might be working together, which I'm not real happy about because they both at least have the common enemy of Russia. So I'm going to have to figure out how to navigate that situation. Italy fails to enter orders, which is, of course, always a bad mistake. Austria engages in self-defense, trying to move to bounce Italy from moving into Trieste, but Italy didn't move to Trieste, so it just lands back in Trieste. At the same time, Austria tried to go for Romania and steal that from Russia, but Turkey ultimately supported Russia in, and so we see what looks like kind of a typical juggernaut is actually taking shape in the east. We will see if that holds. The only really good thing of note is that I got all three of the Iberian centers plus Belgium, which was, semi-expected, not entirely expected, but England was willing to let me in there, so at least I have that kind of friendly set of terms with England. Looking at the build phase, we see, I think Russia really did make a mistake of focusing west so early on because he feels the need to build in St. Pete. On the north coast, which is, somewhat reasonable from the German perspective, but what this means is that he is now fighting Germany and England, and he's having to commit more resources to that fight than he really should. And he's probably going to need more resources than he actually has because Germany builds an army in Berlin, which clearly intended to go after Russia. I'm not very happy about it because Germany hasn't built anything to go after England, and it means that I need to try and work with England. England builds Fleet London. I build armies in Brest and Paris, Fleet Marseille. Austria builds an army in Vienna. Turkey builds army in Caen. I persuade England to go after Germany with me. He takes support into Holland. So Germany tries and fails to enter Holland. At the same time, England and Germany bounce with Russia and each other in Sweden, and England taps St. Pete's north coast. England was thinking that Russia would move into Norway, and if England got into Sweden, then Norway would be vacant, in which case England would have taken St. Pete. At the same time that this is happening, Germany takes Silesia from Russia, forcing Russia to retreat, and Russia also attempted to move Silesia into Galicia, which bounced, so now the only places Russia could retreat to are Prussia and Warsaw. Russia is not in a great place, I think, right now, because even with Turkey initially on his side, Turkey can see that Russia is on a downward trajectory, and it looks like Turkey is already switching sides, moving into Armenia, and having control still of Black Sea, supporting that move into Armenia, which suggests to me that Turkey is making a serious attempt at attacking Russia now, and likely to succeed because Russia has very meager forces in the east. Looking to Italy, we see that position remains unoccupied, and in order to try and take advantage of this absence of Italian presence, I move into Gulf of Lion and try to move Portugal to the Mediterranean as well, starting by moving it to mid-Atlantic Ocean. We will see if that succeeds. Looking through retreats, we see Russia went to Warsaw. Going to fall, you see that a new Italy did take over, convoyed to Tunis, and so now I have 2 fleets in the Mediterranean, but nothing for them to do. Elsewhere, I am attempting to attack and invade Germany, and England is hopefully going to help me once I am in position. But England's really focused on trying to take over Scandinavia right now. Does not go into Helgoland Bight, instead goes into Skagerrak. I think that this divided focus is a mistake for our alliance, and it's a little annoying. But Germany has not been a great communicator, and didn't build fleets, and so for now I feel like I am sort of stuck working with England. Also, both Russia and Austria are moving units up to border Germany, which could potentially be promising. We will see. Looking to the east, we see that Turkey does indeed attack Russia, takes Sevastopol. It's an irresistible attack because he taps Romania to cut support, and Austria, to the west of him, successfully walks into Greece, which means that Russia's neighbors are getting builds off of him and a neutral, and it is essentially at his expense because Russia's the one who's going to get pounded as a result of this. Looking to the build phase, we see that Turkey gets Fleet Smyrna, Austria gets Army Budapest, and the two of them are well set to work together. Italy got a fleet in Rome, clearly worried about me more than anything else, and signaling that, and I can understand it, but it is going to be annoying. England got Army London. I don't know why. He has no fleet to convoy that army, and you don't need any armies to take over Scandinavia, St. Pete, or northern Germany. This is just annoying. England is going to become a more and more annoying partner from my perspective, but also one that's difficult to dispense with. So in a sense, he's playing the game right, because that's not a bad place to be. In spring, I got England to willingly give up Holland temporarily to me, so that I could get a build this year. At the same time, I can see I'm probably not going to advance against Germany. The only way it's going to happen is if Germany loses some ground to England. He needs to lose Denmark in order for me to be able to advance. Russia is being destroyed utterly from the east. Turkey occupies Moscow this season. And what this means for Russia is that this game is going to be very short for him, I think. Russia is still way too focused on the west, just positionally speaking, and that cannot have good consequences for him. Elsewhere, I have put units on the border with Italy, and they are all lined up against Italian units now. Unfortunately, we're both going to have a hard time walking this position back. Going to fall, we see England gets a successful convoy into Denmark, and Russia gets into Sweden now. But England also gets into St. Pete. It's a very good year for England, because he completely makes up for losing Holland, and is now getting another build. And it's really because of me besieging Germany and Russia being besieged by Turkey that all of this is possible. But England isn't going to see it that way. At the same time, I'm in my deadly dance with Italy. I get into Tyrrhenian Sea. He has units in Rome and Milan, and one of us could take the other out of a home center if we make the wrong moves in the coming year. Really, it's more likely that he'll be the one who's in trouble, but it is somewhat perilous position even for me as well. Turkey and Austria appear to be working hand in hand for now. We will see, though, whether or not that is sustainable. Looking at the retreats, Germany unfortunately retreats to Baltic Sea. Russia also has a retreat. He retreats from Romania to Galicia. We see Russia finally give up the ghost on holding on to Sweden. After the builds are ordered, he makes that his destroy, while Turkey gets an army in Ankara, Austria gets an army in Budapest, and Italy gets another fleet in Naples this time. And so now Italy has some extra strength to fight me with. I think this was probably a deliberate sacrifice by Austria and Turkey in order to keep a strong defense against me, against the so-called Western juggernaut. It's very unfortunate. Another unfortunate thing, England builds another army. This is kind of confusing. I got another fleet in Marseille, but that's because I know I can't put more armies into the fight with Germany. All of my armies are lined up on the front. I do not have room for additional armies. And I do need extra fleets in the fight with Italy. I don't know what England is thinking here, other than this is going to help him to attack me later on. Going to the spring, we see that England moves an army into St. Pete, moves a fleet into Sweden. Thankfully, Germany had to get rid of his fleet in Baltic Sea, so I guess I was recalling wrong about him using that to blockade me for years. At the same time, we see that England is trying to move London to Holland, and I'm trying naturally to attack Germany still, so this is a bit of a conflict. And I'm also making no progress in the south. Things are not looking good. In the east, the moves are toward finishing off Russia, which is going to happen sooner or later, almost no matter what. Austria moves into Galicia in the fall, and Turkey tries to just basically hold on to what he has and does that successfully. England trying to support Russia against Turkey as a way of propping up our anti-Eastern defenses, which I approve of, but England also trying to move into Belgium this season, which is not great. England is really impatient about getting a build off of me now that we are sort of temporarily at a standoff with Germany, mostly because he's not really helping me and not really doing much of anything to assist. And England is acting as if he's put upon in some way by this. In the build phase, he does get a build because despite his whining, he keeps getting builds consistently every year. He puts a fleet in Liverpool, and now we are at war. We see that I start pulling back from the front with Italy, and also the front with Germany. I'm happy to let Germany have Holland now, because I want him to be in the fight with England. I want him to be able to build a fleet. He needed a fleet before, he didn't get one. I wish he had, because England is a difficult person to work with, and very stabby and impatient. In the fall, you see that Germany does indeed get into Holland with English support, but I also wasn't trying to stop him and told him he could have it. We will see what actually happens, whether he actually builds a fleet, as he's telling me he will. Turkey supports England into Moscow, or into Warsaw this season, so now Russia is actually truly finished off. And in the south, Italy is happily pulling back from the borders with me as well. So hopefully I will get some space to fight England for a while. Looking at the retreats, Russia tries to retreat to Moscow, destroying his last unit. In the build phase, Germany gets an army in Berlin, England gets fleet Liverpool, and I think the game is pretty much over for me here, because if Germany isn't on my side, I cannot defeat England. And this is kind of what you see, is that England continues to make advances against me. Germany still says that he's on my side for some reason. He stupidly built an army. He said it's because he needs to take Warsaw from England or some garbage. I say that's garbage because Turkey could easily do that himself if the English player looks like he's getting too powerful, and Turkey would do that himself if the English player looks like he's getting too powerful. That's just one dot. That's not going to lead to sustainable advances against England. And yes, you might take Warsaw, or Turkey might help him defend it, in which case you just wasted that build, and you will never advance anywhere with that army unless you decide to turn and attack me. So I'm really not happy. And the only good thing here is that Turkey is also fighting Austria now. And surprisingly enough, Germany actually does get into Warsaw. But at the same time, Germany moves into Berlin. So now he has units in both of his spaces that could hold onto fleets. So he cannot build a fleet now. It's a very frustrating thing trying to switch and work with Germany here. Looking at the build phase, he gets another army, this one in Munich. Because I guess he has some kind of tacit agreement with England. That's the only explanation. I'm defending myself. I can't say I'm really defending myself adequately. It's a very frustrating situation because I'm just losing ground. I'm happy that Italy is still focusing east, going after Turkey, while Austria also goes after Turkey because Turkey made the mistake of getting into a fight with Austria. But I know that everyone else is doing better positionally than me. I'm only losing ground. At some point in here, I start talking to England again. England, who is blaming me for our relationship breaking up. England, who is such a pain in the neck. But I can at least say a few positive things for England. One of them is that he doesn't just do dumb things that have no explanation. Or at least he doesn't do them more than Germany. He's just extremely selfish and self-centered. And so you see that I do turn on Germany with English help. England takes Holland, I take Kiel, reducing Germany to Berlin, Munich, and Warsaw. And then England stabs me immediately. He takes Belgium, he takes Kiel, and now Germany is 4 centers actually, because Austria supports Germany taking Moscow from England. What a bizarre set of words I just said. Austria supports Germany taking Moscow from England. What a strange position we're in. So, Germany and I are not on good terms anymore. England has taken my meager gains from Germany, plus one of the centers I had that was not a gain from Germany, and we're in real trouble, me and Germany. Austria attacking Italy seemingly now. Italy occupying part of Turkey. Turkey taking back Constantinople from Italy. The East is kind of a whole mess. Austria looks like he's going to come out on top of the mess, but there is some question in my mind whether he needed to attack Italy at any point at all, or whether they could have worked together in a civil way and probably come and invaded me and Germany before England could continue to advance in those regions. We're going to see as the game goes on that England continues to slowly steamroll over me and Germany. And it's a slow process, and at the same time, Austria is fighting off Italy, or is taking over more and more of Italy, is trying to fight Turkey, and losing some ground, gaining some ground over time. But slowly but surely, England gets more and more dominant in the West, taking over all of Germany, and after that, taking over all of France. And at the same time that England is going to finish me off, Austria moves units over to where I am, trying to make a line, make a defensible position, because England is partially across the stalemate line at this point. It's quite worrying, I think, for their side. Gradually, as the game goes on, I am successfully chiseled out, and the three of them ultimately agree to a draw. The most selfish player on the map, England, who didn't consider anyone else's needs and did not listen to reasonable explanations or arguments, managed to be one of the three winners by sheer greed and the virtue of a corner position, and Austria and Turkey managed to triumph in the East as well. Turkey, just sheer grit, tenacity, and determination, I think. Austria, greed, clever strategy, and generally managing to play people against each other very effectively and work the grand strategy of the map very skillfully. I thought it was a good game, mainly for people other than me, and I didn't really much care for my neighbors, but it was an interesting game. Let me know what you guys think. This really fits in with what I've said before about how Austria, I think, is strengthened on the Milan map. Don't know how I would explain how England did so well, other than Only think about your own needs. Don't think about your allies' possible needs. Don't accept your allies' reasonable excuses. Be kind of a jerk, especially if you're in a corner position and the other player who's nearby, who's in your circle, is also not a great communicator and not very tactically thoughtful. I don't know, though. Not sure if there's a way I could have won this game or come out on top or really done much better than I actually did. I could potentially have stuck with Germany, who was one of the powers I communicated with well early on, and not worked with England, but Germany really loved his armies. He built armies all throughout the game. I don't know how that would have worked. England, I could not have worked with because the way that he dealt with other people was kind of nuts and lacking in any kind of understanding or empathy. So, I don't know how I could have done better than I actually did in this game. Hope you enjoyed this diplomacy commentary. At this point, I would love to thank and credit my Patreon patrons. They are awesome. They keep on being awesome. I also want to take a moment to shout out something else I've been doing. As I covered earlier in this video and in my announcement video, my story, Ruthless, Path of Conquest, is live and available for reading on the website Royal Road. There are over 160,000 words of the story available. There's more coming multiple times a week. Right now it's 5 times a week, but by the time you hear this it might be only 3 times a week. But still, it's an interesting, ongoing story, post-apocalyptic with RPG and fantasy elements. If that sounds like something you would enjoy, you should check it out. Also, following the link to Royal Road in the video description, reading some of my story, and giving me 5 stars is almost as valuable at this moment in time as literally handing me money. My goal now is to make a steady living by creating stuff. If it wasn't obvious, this would also be very good in terms of its effect on my likely taking on new and interesting creative projects, some of which might be of interest to you. Till next time, Florida Man, out.